People are looking for those organisations that are truly connected to all parts of its growth, and that people are part of that too. I think without it, how do people then feel engaged? How do people feel connected and aligned, which was the second word, between their lives and what they do, a significant part of what they do every single day? And by creating belonging, you are able to empower people. You're able to empower them with the part that they play. And if you look at a lot of engagement statistics, organisations that lack a culture of empowerment is where you're going to see the most disengagement.
Hello, and welcome back to Making It Happen by Sims. I'm Mel, and today we're looking at what it really takes to make culture work in the UK workplace right now. There's been a lot of change, shift in expectations, uncertainty, and teams trying to stay connected. We're also revisiting these themes with someone who knows this space inside out. It's our long-standing partner and friend, Luke Hall from Revolve. Welcome back, Luke.
Thank you, Mel. It's great to be here, and thank you for that introduction. It's definitely a world that we continue to learn ourselves every single day. As you say, it's changing so much. But hopefully today we can get into some of those things that we've learned together as well. Because obviously we've continued on our journey and our partnership. So yeah, really looking forward to it.
Amazing. Okay, so since our last conversation, belonging and alignment have only grown in importance. Have work expectations evolved, especially across different generations?
I think I'll tackle that question slightly differently. I think the generations thing comes in where we can consider other things, but I think the belonging part in particular, that has definitely made a huge shift in levels of importance. In fact, I think it over and above all, if we talk about why people come to work, now more than ever, people want to know that they belong to something that matters, or at least they understand what it does and therefore they belong to it, that they are part of its success, whether that be the organization, the team, their colleagues and their peers. People no longer just want to show up. Yes, of course, people have different needs for their career, by belonging to something that matters and the people around them that they care about. You can still be a person that wants to grow the career versus somebody that wants to come and fit within a world of these are the hours that I want to work happily and go home.
Yeah.
But people are looking for those organizations that are truly connected to all parts of its growth, and that people are part of that too. I think without it, how do people then feel engaged? How do people feel connected and aligned, which was the second word, between their lives and what they do, a significant part of what they do every single day? And by creating belonging, you are able to empower people. You're able to empower them with the part that they play. And if you look at a lot of engagement statistics, organizations that lack a culture of empowerment is where you're going to see the most disengagement. And there's a clear alignment between I belong to something and therefore I am empowered within my role to deliver on the expectations of that role because it belongs to this. So there's this dotted line, this golden thread that comes through. So belonging allows us to feel empowered. Without empowerment, you're going to get in disengaged workforce.
Yeah.
I think that's where I would say belonging is playing its biggest part. And I think it also makes just the days feel better.
Absolutely.
On a personal level.
Yeah, we spend such a lot of time, don't we? It does help. And like you say, in terms of productivity, and if you're feeling happy, then obviously you're going to produce better work, aren't you? So that's really good. Okay, so we mentioned about sort of the different generations then. So across sort of Gen Z, millennials, Gen X and boomers, what's the difference do you see in what people value at work today?
So this is why I wanted to detach these two things, because actually I'm not gonna suggest that this is my thinking. It's something that I read and listened to a couple of months ago, and it's probably the most simplest and eye-opening soundbite that I listened to and in turn read the subsequent article. If you look at the generations, and this is what I heard, right? So I am just playing back to everybody that's listening. What we value doesn't actually change across the generations. It's just
Okay.
how that value is demonstrated and shows up in our lives, which I found really intriguing. So let me just sort of give some connections to that. If you value your family, okay, that taking care of your family is a value of yours.
Yeah.
Perhaps in the boomer generation, that will show up in hard work, in bringing in as much income as we can, 7 days a week, almost not being there, but being present somewhere else in order to provide for my family. You share that with a Gen Z, millennial, okay? Perhaps Gen Z is even more so now. That value is still the same, but how it shows up is I want to spend time with my family.
Yes.
So I'm
Yeah.
delivering I have the same value as you do, but it shows up in our worlds in very different places. So what we've got to try and do, and this is where I then started to make some connections, is go back to the belonging part, is create a shared purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we all value similar things in life. And yes, every human being has little nuances, but typically it's just about our definition of how that value shows up that creates the differentiation. So we can all agree we value family. How that shows up is different. So therefore, we've got to create a connected purpose between where we are and where we're going. And how does that fit for everybody involved?
Oh,
So that was one thing that I found super interesting,
yeah.
is that we're not clashing on values, which you hear a lot. There's a big clash in terms of the values of new generations coming through. No, there isn't. There's just a different way that value shows up.
Yeah.
The other thought bit that I found quite interesting is if you share the patterns of behavior between what we call these different generations and the maybe differences between them, is it's often with the next generation apart for whatever reason that may be. And the example that I heard about on this one was look at the relationship between grandparents and their grandchildren. They're more
Yeah.
relaxed, they're not as stern, they seem to be more forgiving of their grandchildren coming through as opposed to the parent to the child.
Yeah.
And therefore, we've got to look at sort of this across our cultures to see where are we seeing some of these tensions and how do we create some alignment in the purpose that we're trying to achieve, but focus some of our efforts in some of those areas because it's almost stereotypical that we see that and refer to that as how come as parents we would say to I don't know about you, Mel, but I'm like how is it that they can leave the lights on when they leave a room, whereas you would turn them off while I'm in a room, right?
Yes.
Sat
And I
in
am
the
now
room.
that person.
Yeah, exactly. So you're now that person, but guess what?
Yeah.
When if you're lucky enough to become a grandparent, you'll be more forgiving. You won't care about the light being turned off.
Yeah.
So just got to look at some of those patterns and some of those behaviors. I don't think it's anything other than just making some effort to learn.
Yeah.
Both parties learn about one another. I find it almost lazy, right? That we default to well, it's generations.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, there's differences. Yes, of course, cultural society has brought it all up. But are we not going to learn about it or are we just going to deal with it as it is? I can honestly say there's a person in my team that is uh, uh, 25 years of age and one of the best talent that I've worked with
Okay.
in my career. We have total different social values, not just generational values, but we work through it and we're intrigued and we don't
Yeah.
stereotype and we question and we quiz. And I'm like, why do you think like that? And I don't. And then the same will happen. And we've created this safe environment to almost vocalize it. So, would it be okay if I called you out for what I see as a certain behavior that I don't
Yeah.
quite understand? And could you teach me about it? And then I learn more.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I think you're almost afraid of what you don't know. And I guess we're all quite quick to be like, oh, back in my day, which I feel like I'm talking like my mum, but you do find that because you're nostalgic or whatever. But actually, like you say, if you just take a minute to educate yourself, it probably isn't maybe what you first thought. And it's what makes us all different at the end of the day, isn't it? So really
Absolutely.
interesting take on that. I'm now not going to put everyone in some sort of block. I think that's a good way to approach it. So
And
really
if
good.
ever, yeah, if ever in doubt and it's something new, ask for permission. Say,
Yeah,
I see that there's a bit of a difference in the way that we choose to think. This may not be just generation, it could be gender, right?
yes,
Why not open up a world where you just say, are we okay to just call it out?
yeah,
Because in theory, if you think about the closest relationships in your life, you would at home,
yeah,
sibling, parent, spouse, and friends, you wouldn't hesitate to go, I want to challenge or understand or debate that more. But at
yeah,
work, this barrier comes up of it's not appropriate. You
yeah.
can make it appropriate. It's just it feels, well, from what we hear and what we read, quite a scary topic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, really interesting on that side. So you have mentioned purpose. So
Hmm.
many UK businesses are talking about a collective purpose.
Yeah.
How can companies ensure that purpose feels relevant to people at different stages in their life and career paths?
I don't think companies can, depending on the size of the organization. Your company's
Okay.
purpose is something that's there to guide everybody. I think it's the role of the leader and the teams themselves to create connections. I think a leader plays a pivotal role in this. So if you look at the next layer down, you go, well, what's the purpose of the team to achieve that purpose? Whether it's in writing or whether it's a discussion, why do we exist? Is a conversation that I always ask. As a team, why do we exist in achieving the purpose of the organization? So that's that next layer down. Because if I'm in supply chain versus finance, it's going to be very different, the story that we tell to achieving the purpose.
Yeah.
It is up to the leader and the individual, but I think led by the leader to then create a connection between that purpose, that person's individual purpose.
Yeah.
Why do you show up? Why do you come to work? Friends, family, holidays, whatever it may well be. So I think purpose is multi-layered.
Yeah.
The organization can set its direction, but if you've got 20,000 people in an organization, how much more can you expect of the organization?
Yeah.
We've got to work our way through the organization, creating those granular connections that all lead up to it. If you do it in isolation without the company's purpose, then that's not going to make sense.
Yeah.
So I think it's just about going, okay, thank you. Now, how do we play our part in delivering that? And then as a leader, turning around to the people and going, let me understand your purposes. And by that, I genuinely mean saying, why do you come to work?
Yeah.
What drives you? And then I can have continued conversations between you and our team purpose or function. And that's already aligned to the overall purpose. And that bit's done.
Yeah. Yeah. So making it, like you say, making it relevant to them, adapting it so that you bring it to life, I suppose, for them. So yeah,
100%.
that's really good. Okay, so let's talk about the wider picture then. Where right now the UK workforce feels like it's full of speculation, and there's a lot of economic uncertainty, job hugging, which is a relatively new one to me, and rising costs. How can leaders prevent rumours from creating cracks in culture?
So firstly, don't be part of it. So you've
Yeah,
got to model those behaviors. It's sometimes difficult because as leaders, we're human beings too.
yeah,
We're not infallible. We're not scared about the multiple world wars, the uncertainty, the economy, not just in the UK, but Europe and across the world. But actually, we can be feeders of it. We need to find perhaps as leaders, our own outlet for that and
yeah,
potentially try to create different ways of thinking within our team. So first and foremost, we can't be part of the problem. We can't feed those conversations.
yeah,
We can't be the mood hoover, which is an old saying, but it's one that's still relevant. Um, and also, I would we use a sort of an adapted version of Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, or one of the habits is proactivity. And
yeah,
Covey in the 80s talked about circle of concern and circle of influence. And the wider you grow your circle of influence, the smaller your circle of concern comes. We've changed it slightly, okay? But just bear with me. It's probably my biggest trigger point for how we can manage it as leaders and managers. Firstly, in the center now, we've dropped in the circle of control. So what can you control within your role? What can you control within your team? And we should just focus first and foremost on making sure we're controlling those things.
Yeah.
Then you've got the next layer of the onion skin. What can we influence? So just like Covey said, the wider we can grow that, the more effective we can be. That's about cross functional teams, building great relationships, not just for now, but for the future. That creates an element of feeling like you're belonging to more than just what you're doing. So going back all the way back to belonging. But the final layer of this three-layered onion skin is the things we have no influence or control over. And you can look at this model from the middle outwards, as I just started to explain, or you can look at it from the outside in. And that's how I often use it within our teams, is the first question has to be, do we have any influence or control over what we're discussing? If we don't, we have to question why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So, yes, as a small business owner, tomorrow will be the new UK budget.
Yeah.
Okay. So they will be out of time by the time this goes out, but I will know by tomorrow. And I've had many people ask me the question, how are you feeling about the budget? I mean, what can I do?
Yeah.
Nothing. So I've kind of trained my brain to go, well, I feel nothing about it.
Yeah.
Because I know that's easier said than done, because as a small business owner, we've been deeply affected by a lot of the changes over the last 2 to 3 years economically.
Yeah.
But I've learned this behavior of just take it out, take it away, because all it's going to do is create paralysis in the way I think. It's going to stop me from feeling like I can do the best that I can do because I'm focused and losing sleep over all these other things.
Yeah.
So if I can summarize as leaders, what can we do? Don't be part of the problem.
Yeah.
But secondly, challenge it in the room. If you hear
Okay.
something where someone's coming in and it might not even be about the economy, it might be about another
Mhm.
team in the way that they're functioning. And you might ask the question, so can I just interject? Can we do anything about what that team is doing right now? Do we have any influence or control? No, it's a policy way, way beyond our reach. Okay, so why are we spending time on this?
Yeah.
Mental
Really
calories
practical.
is burn.
Yeah.
Yeah, just move on. I'm happy for you to all sit here and talk about it, but it's a little bit crazy to think that we're going to talk about something that we can do nothing about.
Yeah.
Why don't we cleanse ourselves of that and move on with the things that we can control and the things that we can influence?
Yeah.
Surely that's a better place to be.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think you've sort of nipped the nail on the head, really. So I think there's so much news, and obviously that feeds off speculation, doesn't it? So it's hard not to get consumed by it. And like you say, people turning up and they know that it's going to affect some part of their life, and it's that, as a protective thing, you want to try and predict what's going to happen
Mhm.
so that you can prepare. But actually you're right, because a lot of it is just rumor, and up until it's sort of signed, sealed and delivered, then there isn't much you can do. You obviously can be prepared, so that you need to be reactive once you do hear the news. But yeah, it is like the lost sleep and things like that, and it breeds a really sort of unhealthy atmosphere, doesn't it, I think so. Yeah,
And
really.
I just want to also caveat it with, obviously, if there's genuine concern for how it's making people feel, let's not brush over that. If
Yeah.
somebody is starting to get themselves to a point of genuine, like it's affecting them, we should all be helping one another through this. Like, there's not one person that's unaffected or not seeing the things that we see.
Yeah.
It's not just the leader's responsibility, it's everybody's responsibility to be kind and to pay it forward. I'm just sort of saying around some of those unproductive things that we hear regularly that we should potentially challenge. That's not to dismiss anything that might be going on that we may not know, see, or hear. We still need to be cautious in our approach where we feel it's appropriate. I can't judge how people do that. It's left to interpretation, knowing the individual and the environment that everybody listening to this will have created.
Yeah, no, really good. Thank you for that. So when leaders don't have all the answers, then what does honest and effective communication look like?
I think it's exactly that. I don't have all the answers.
Hands up.
I don't have all the answers.
Yeah,
You see a lot sometimes in organizations where legally they cannot say anything.
sure. Yeah,
For whatever reason. It's just the way that the world operates, the way that business operates. Say that. Here's the things I can tell you. Here's the
yeah,
things I can't. And yes, there are answers to them, and they're being decided, but there is absolutely no way that that can be shared. I always believe lean towards giving everybody the opportunity. Brene Brown wrote a book called Dare to Lead, and within that, she talks about clear is kind.
Mhm.
Okay. And therefore, the opposite of it is unclear, is unkind. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think if, like you say, it's almost if nothing's being said, then that's where those rumours and speculation come about. So if you sort of say, look, this is where we're at, and kind of lay your cards on the table, even if it is, we don't have anything for you at the moment, but we are considering it, looking at it, or whatever, then
yeah.
that probably puts those sort of people at ease, knowing that something is being discussed or sorted. So, yeah.
Yeah, Mel, you're spot on. It does absolutely link in terms of how do we stop the rumors? We stop the rumors by giving out the information that we have.
Yeah.
We stop the rumors by making sure that we prioritize communicating above everything else in certain times. We potentially just move towards a point of regular communication. Ask
Yeah.
what, here's another one. You might assume people want to know. Ask the question.
Yeah.
What do you want to know? What would the perfect level of engagement be for you right now with where we're at? We all
Yeah.
know that there's uncertainty. We all know that our marketplace is shrinking. We know that, let's say, going into 2026, we've gone 5% lower on revenue year to year. What do you want to know?
Yeah.
And if people turn around and go, I feel all right, actually, quite enjoying, like, you've just done your job.
Yeah.
Treat
Yeah.
people with that intention to be clear, because clear is kind. And as Brene so brilliant, Brene, like she's a friend, as Brene Brown says, that cuts through. And I think that's the best policy for anybody right now.
So I know that it's still a thing and it feels like it shouldn't. You mentioned 2020
Yeah.
just then, but organisations are still wrestling with the return to office strategies.
Mhm.
What actually works when trying to bring people together in meaningful ways?
I think it's exactly that. So I know where with Sims, most people do work from the office in the main. It's the role to find it. So I think there's no one way fits all. But for those that are they have created community working environments like they have, they're trying to build up that networking and experience that they're trying to create. I mean, I've seen it some phenomenal offices you could only dream of working in, but they still feel abandoned.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's about, for me, understanding what you're there to do. So
Okay.
I've said to leaders in the past, if you get to a Thursday and you're going to be in with your team, and it turns out that that Thursday has ended up being packed out with calls all day, call ahead and just say, "There's no, I shouldn't, can't come in tomorrow," because what's the value in you being in a physical environment just to do calls,
Yeah.
just to
And I think
work?
that's one of the most common ones that's mentioned, isn't it? People go, well, I go in, and either they go in and they don't have a desk space because I think
Yeah,
perhaps some have reduced it, their facilities down, or they go in and they go, well, I'm just on a Teams call in another room, and
yeah,
my colleagues are at home or whatever. So I guess that is it. It's making sure that the right people come together at the right time. So if you're going to do a few days a week, or whether it's across the board, if you've got more people and personnel there, then you're gonna get more from it, aren't you?
of course it is. And I think, mate, if it's easy to put a number on it, put a number on it. For me, I work in the office so little. I'm out and about all of the time that
Yeah.
I've learned through the pain that's been created of me coming into the office with loads of things to do, not calls, things,
Yeah.
and then getting to the end of the day feeling quite stressed about the fact that I didn't get any of them done.
Yeah.
Well, the second time I did it, who's the idiot there? It's got to be me, because I've gone in and the same result's been delivered a second time, which is I've got no work done. But it's because every time that I do come in and the team are there and they haven't been in an environment with me, but they've been with one another, that's their time to catch up, impromptu conversations. Can I catch you with this? Can I catch you with that? So now, to the best of my ability, Thursday is coming up, is my version of this. We have a very clear, purposeful meeting in the afternoon as a team. The rest of my diary has nothing in it.
Okay.
And if I get things done, what a win.
Yeah.
If I don't, it's just as big of a win. So I guess, again, pointing back to the leader a little bit, role model some of this.
Yeah.
If that's your problem, that all people do is come in and sit on calls, then don't be part of the problem. Challenge people to maybe put 30% of their diary on the days that they're in that are empty at the same time as everybody else, and protect that with the same value as you would a meeting with the most senior leader that you know.
Yeah.
People just place such a low value on free time, and we all do, me
Yeah.
included. There's no one sat here saying that I get this right every single time. But you should be coming to the environment. And people will say, well, what do we do? Why do you have to plan it? You know, just see how you get on. And if
Yeah.
everybody ends up working and they get more done than they anticipated, but I definitely don't think coming to a beautiful environment that people that organizations have invested heavily in,
Yeah.
for them to just come and sit on calls, well, why would you come to work? That makes
Yeah.
no sense.
Well,
So
it was
try and
something we used to sort of, they used to aspire to, wasn't it? I think it was always like the Google offices and things like that. And it's like, oh, what an amazing workplace to go to. And obviously we've been given that flexibility, and somebody like myself, I hugely value that. And there was a period of adjustment required to come back into the office. But once I'd settled in, I realised how much I was missing by not being in the office.
yeah.
And it's just finding that right balance. And if you're fortunate enough to obviously have the flexible working or having those conversations with your leaders, then you're going to get the best out of your team, aren't you? So there are certain days of the week that wouldn't work, but there are others that do. And then you make those days count. And like you say, then you build that human connection, because it is something you can feel connected, and working remotely does have its benefits, but there isn't
Yeah.
anything that it's like a face to face, or whether it is just having lunch together or pop into the pub or whatever that might be, because you get to talk to people on a different level. It isn't all about work, is it? So yeah, I need to
You
take more pub lunches basically.
No problem with that at all. I think you've just got to create a different purpose to it. And yes, those things also matter, Mel, but you can be really productive as a team if you create room for it. You've got to agree. So again, go back to the values piece that we talked about with generations. And I don't want to make this about generations. Why do people show up? Why do people come to work?
Yeah.
Don't try and get people excited about coming to the office if it's not something that generally they're excited about.
Yeah.
Do what Sims has done. Create a responsibility to be part of Team Sims. Put that as a pillar of behavior. And therefore it's an obligation within your world of being part of Sims to be part of the team.
Uh-huh.
What that then looks like goes back to that conversation of why are we coming in? What's the purpose of it? Some organizations are in the office all the time. It's more similar to yours. You've got a bit of a hybrid because some people are there every single day. I know others
Yes.
are less. So find a purpose that means everything to everybody. Connect that then to people's individual purposes and go, look, this is part of who we are. It's part of what's going to make it easier for us to operate and function every single day together,
Yeah.
remotely or in the room. The one thing I don't get is shift work. I mean, we've gone from pre-pandemic where people kind of freely did it and were in and out to, or they were in, or they were out, or somewhere in between,
Yeah.
to people are booking shifts. And I know there's a desk reality, but I'm still yet to find an environment where I've walked into where the desks are all full. So it feels like we're all in a shift working world. I'm
Yes.
I'm in a different position, so maybe I'm speaking with Rose, from a glass house and saying it's easy for me. I've got a smaller business and we've got enough desks for everybody. But
Yeah. But like you said, it comes down to that sort of having the basics, isn't it? Having the facilities for, if you want people to show up, then make sure that everything is there. They've got the right tools to do it. So
anyway,
um, brilliant. Okay. So sort of moving on to sort of leadership.
yeah.
And obviously, because that matters on how they show up. So, what behaviours most clearly distinguish effective leaders currently?
Um, so there's one that I think stands out for me now more than ever is, well, two words describe it, human and
Mhm.
vulnerable.
Okay.
I think that those two things, being a human being, being able to show that we're all we all make mistakes, that we're all perfectly imperfect, that we were all once sat in one another's shoes,
Yeah.
and And then to do that, you need to show some level of vulnerability.
Yes.
And I think gone are the times you want to talk about belonging. Lots more people are looking to work with people that are just highly skilled,
Yeah.
highly knowledgeable, highly capable, but also really human.
Yeah.
That can turn around and go, I've made a mistake. That can turn around and say, I don't have all the answers. That um, show that they've got personal lives and that they've got things that matter beyond work. Um, I think without that, that's where you're going to again get levels of disconnection. Now, some people aren't necessarily comfortable with total vulnerability, but
Yeah.
you've just got to adapt and adjust.
Yeah. And
I'm a
that comes
half
down to generational as well, isn't it? I guess that's something that perhaps blurring the lines between that, obviously being open and having making people feel comfortable to sort of be their authentic selves and things like that is quite not that it's a new thing, but probably back in the day it was very much a very different story. So yeah,
absolutely. I think there's more
quite
room
practical, be
for it now.
human.
Just be human and show vulnerability, and I think
Yeah.
it is a huge amount of weight in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about culture itself then, and how businesses can tell when it's working or it's not. um, Beyond surveys and retention figures, how
Mhm.
can businesses measure whether their culture is truly working?
It's such a big question. I think we will all continuously search for the answers to that.
What's Luke's take on it?
What's my take on it? I think moving away from just the surveys. I think it's about having the courage to really ask the hard questions yourself. So I often put myself in the firing line, and I go and ask those questions. I've tried to create an environment where I think people feel safe to challenge. I think if you were to look, dare I say, at the term psychological safety, which has been around quite a while, it's not something that we're unfamiliar with. Firstly, if you want to check whether you've got a strong culture, uh, do they have the freedom to make mistakes without
Yeah,
fear of retribution? Okay, that's not a survey that you need to say that. You can ask that. We need to find out, because if a psychologically safe organization is not about just wellness and mental health. Psychological safety is about a culture and an environment that we create for ourselves, and therefore, do people know that they can make mistakes? Do we create then an environment where people want to learn from those mistakes? Do we have an environment where people feel safe to challenge and say no? An environment where people want to put forward their ideas.
yeah,
Those things create, for me, are the foundation for a culture. And in order to do that, in order to have all of those things, we need to make sure that we have an environment where people trust one another,
yeah,
truly trust one another. Without trust, what have we got? Trust allows us to feel, I trust you to believe in me, to try and do the right thing, to make the mistake, and that I will learn from that. I trust you, or you over here, to allow me to come up with the idea, and it might not be the best idea, but I'm not going to be laughed at.
yeah,
I'm not going to be knocked down for, well, that's not a good idea, or why would we even consider that?
yeah,
New ideas, mistakes, learning, and growth are all things that a company needs at a foundational level. You've got to find out in your own way. Anybody listening to this, you can have different organizations, different environments, different countries, different sizes.
yeah,
Find a way to ask those questions.
yeah.
People safe to make mistakes? Do people feel safe to give feedback, to say no, to challenge thinking? If you haven't got those things, then your culture is probably struggling.
And that's important, isn't it? So it's almost like having the leaders not asking the questions, but for employees to not be afraid to speak up. So if you see something that isn't working, or like we said back at the beginning, you know, if there's rumors circulating or something, if we address those, then, you know, speak up, because your voice matters. And if you do that, then that encourages that, I guess, that open sort of communication between everyone.
So, Mel, you asked me the question again from my view. If somebody hasn't told you, and you're a leader, if somebody hasn't said no to you within the last month to 2 months, I'd say have a look.
Yeah, okay.
If you found out that a mistake's happened, but it wasn't raised to you, you were unaware, another red flag.
Yeah,
Okay. And if you are a leader of an organization or of a team where you feel like it lacks ideas and thinking and new ways of working coming from your team, it's a culture problem.
yeah.
It isn't the people. I would check that they feel safe to do all of those things. So in the last 3 months, if all of those things are happening or not happening, depending on which question I asked, you've got some work to do.
Yeah, so perhaps more what's not being said rather than what is. So
Love it.
yeah, really interesting. Okay. Okay, so sort of just to round things off, and as we've talked about culture, we have sort of seen that Revolve has recently won a national sales award with Budweiser. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So what was involved in that project, and what can other businesses learn from it?
So first and foremost, it started 3 years ago.
Okay.
Again, with the risk of sounding like this is all aligned, there was a very clear purpose from the team that approached us. They wanted to reshape the way that they engage their customers from a sales perspective at Budweiser Brewing Group. They wanted to shift the marketplace. They wanted to create differentiation, a lot of qualitative measures over just how do we increase sales. We fundamentally believe that we're going to restructure the organization. And therefore, in order to do so, we need to support people with development of this new world that we're going to create. So we're all very aligned. You know what we're passionate about, partnership. So from the very beginning, we were right into the organization, learning about it, learning about its people. We've done that continuously. We attend their quarterly get-togethers as an entire 200 people strong quarterly get-togethers, which we're now part of. And over 160 people have gone through 11 cohorts of learning, whereby us, the organization, and the account managers themselves are entirely dedicated to one thing, and that's moving us forward. It's honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure to be part of the Budweiser team. They set a very high challenge for themselves, and they set us the same challenge for us all to work towards getting and achieving that. And we're still on a journey. They're still not exactly where they want to be, and we've got more work to do. But to be recognised, I'm so pleased for them. In an industry where I haven't seen a lot of it over nearly 20 years of being in the industry, sort of in that drinks industry, I haven't seen a huge amount of learning. They have fully committed to both this new purpose and vision for where they're going, and fully supported their teams in getting there. So yeah, it's been a good journey, and we're really proud of what we all achieved in partnership.
That's amazing, and like you say, you're almost an extension of their team by the sounds of it. So yeah, to be present and to go and collect an award must have been quite an amazing thing for you. So did you enjoy the evening?
I did.
You did.
Say no more. I did. Still a bit of trauma there. So yes, I'm all good.
Oh, brilliant. Well, as always, Luke, thank you again for joining us and sharing your insights. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone for listening to Making It Happen by Sims. If you've enjoyed today's episode, feel free to share it or catch up on any of the previous conversations. And you'll find out more about Luke and Revolve, and we'll pop those in the show notes. So thank you very much for your time again today, Luke, and until next time.
Thank you so much, man. Speak soon.
See ya. Bye. soon.